Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 945th night, she pursued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Abdullah of the sea said to Abdullah of the land, And if 1,000 or more of this kind hear an Adamite cry, a single cry, forthright all die, nor hath one of them power to remove from his place. So whenever a son of Adam falleth into the sea, we take him and anoint him with this fat, and go round about the depths of him. And whenever we see a dandan or 2 or 3 or more, we bid him cry out, and they all die forthright for this once crying. Quoth the fisherman, I put my trust in Allah, and doffing his clothes, buried them in a hole which he dug in the beach, after which he rubbed his body from head to heels with that anointment. Then he descended into the water, and diving, opened his eyes, and the brine did not burn. So he walked right and left, and he rose to the sea face, and if he would, he sank to the base. And he beheld the water as it were a tent over his head, yet it wrought him no hurt. Then said the merman to him, What seest thou, O my brother? And said he, O my brother, I see naught save weal, and indeed thou spakest truth in that which thou saidst to me, for the water doth not me do any hurt. Quoth the merman, Follow me. So he followed him, and they ceased not faring on from one place to another, whilst Abdullah discovered before him, and on his right and left, mountains of water, and solaced himself by gazing thereon, and on the various sorts of fish, some great, some small, which transported themselves in the main. Some of them favoured buffaloes, others oxen, and others dogs. Some of them looked like human beings, but all to which they drew near fled whenas they saw the fisherman, who said to the merman, O my brother, how is it that I see all the fish to which we draw near? They flee from us afar. Said the other, Because they fear thee for all things that Allah hath made fear for the son of Adam. The fisherman ceased not to divert himself with the marvels of the deep, till they came to a high mountain, and fared on beside it. Suddenly he heard a mighty loud cry, and turning, saw some black thing, the bigness of a camel, or bigger, coming down upon him from the liquid mountain, and crying out. So he asked his friend, What is this, O brother? And the merman answered, This is the dandan. He cometh in search of me, seeking to devour me, so cry out to him, O my brother, ere he reach us, else he will snatch me up and devour me. Accordingly, Abdullah cried out at the beast, and behold, it fell down dead. Which when he saw, he said, Glorified be the perfection of God and his praise. I smote it not with sword nor knife. How cometh it that, for all the vastness of the creature's bulk, it could not bear my cry, but died? Replied the merman, Marvel not, for, by Allah, O my brother, were there 1,000 or 2,000 of these creatures, yet could they not endure the cry of a son of Adam. Then they walked on, till they made a city whose inhabitants the fisherman saw to be all women, there being no male among them. So he said to his companion, O my brother, what city is this, and what are these women? This is the city of women, for its inhabitants are the women of the sea. Are there any males among them? No. Then how do they conceive and bear young without males? The king of the sea banisheth them hither, and they conceive not, neither bear children. All the women of the sea, with whom he is wroth, he sendeth to this city, and they cannot leave it, for should one of them come forth therefrom, any of the beasts of the sea that saw her would eat her. But in other cities of the main there are both males and females. Thereupon asked the fisherman, Are there other cities than this in the sea? And the merman answered, There are many. Quoth the fisherman, And is there a sultan over the sea? Yes, quoth the merman. Then said Abdullah, O my brother, I have indeed seen many marvels in the main. But the merman said, And what hast thou seen of its marvels? Hast thou not heard the saying, The marvels of the sea are more manifold than the marvels of the land? True, rejoined the fisherman, and fell to gazing upon those women whom he saw, with faces like moons, and hair like women's hair, but their hands and feet were in the middle, and they had tails like fishes' tails. Now, when the merman had shown him the people of the city, he carried him forth, therefore, and forewalked him to another city, where he found full of folk, both males and females, formed like the women aforesaid, and having tails. But there was neither selling nor buying amongst them, as with the people of the land, nor were they clothed, but were all naked, and with their shame uncovered. Said Abdullah, O my brother, I see males and females alike with their shame exposed. And the other said, This is because the folk of the sea have no clothes. Asked Abdullah the fisherman, How do they then marry? The merman answered, They do not marry, but every one who taketh a liking to a female doth his will of her. Quoth Abdullah, That is unlawful. Why doth he not ask her in marriage, and dower her, and make her a wedding festival, and marry her in accordance with that which is pleasing to Allah and his apostles? And quoth the other, We are not all of one religion. Some of us are Moslems, believers in the unity, others Nazarenes, and what not else, and each marrieth in according with the ordinances of his creed. But those of us who marry are mostly Moslems. The fisherman continued, Ye are naked, and have neither buying nor selling among you. Of what then is your wives' dowry? Do you give them jewels and precious stones? The merman rejoined, Gems with us are only stones without worth. But upon the Moslem who is minded to marry, they impose a dowry of a certain number of fishes of various kinds that he must catch, 1,000 or 2,000 more or less, according to the agreement between himself and the bride's father. As soon as he bringeth the amount required, the families of the bride and the bridegroom assemble and eat the marriage banquet, after which they bring it to him and his bride, and he catcheth fish, and he feedeth her. Or if he be unable, he catcheth fish, and feedeth him. Inquired the fisherman, And how is it if a woman commit adultery? And the other replied, If a woman be convicted of this case, they banish her to the city of women. And if she be with child by her gallant, they leave her till she be delivered. Then if she give birth to a daughter, they banish her with her, calling her an adulteress, daughter of an adulteress, and she abideth a maid till she die. But if the woman give birth to a male child, they carry it to the Sultan of the sea, who putteth it to death. Abdullah marveled at this, and the merman carried him to another city, and thence to another, and yet another, till he diverted him with the sight of 80 cities. And he saw the people of each city unlike those of every other. Then said to the merman, O my brother, are there yet other cities in the main? Whereto said the other, And what hast thou seen of the cities of the sea, and its wondrous spectacles? By the virtue of the noble prophet, the benign, the compassionate, were I to show you the every day of 1,000 cities for 1,000 years, and each city 1,000 marvels, I should not have shown thee 1 carat of the 24 carats of the cities in the sea, and its miracles. I have but shown thee our province and country, nothing more. The fisherman thus resumed, O my brother, since this is the case which I have seen sufficeth me, for I am aweary of eating fish, and these 80 days I have been in thy company. Thou hast fed me morning and night upon nothing but raw fish, neither broiled nor boiled. And what is broiled and boiled? We broil fish with fire, and boil it in water, and dress it with various ways, and make many dishes of it. And how should we come by fire in the sea? We know not broiled, nor boiled, nor aught else of the kind. We also fry it in olive oil and oil of sesame. And how should we come by olive oil and oil of sesame in the sea? Verily we know nothing of that of which thou namest. True, but, O my brother, thou hast shown me many cities, yet hast thou not shown me thine own city. As for mine own city, we passed it a long way, for it is near the land whence we came. And I left it and came with thee hither, thinking only to divert thee with the sight of the great cities of the sea. That which I have seen of them sufficeth me, and now I would have thee show me thine own city. So be it, answered Abdullah of the sea, and returning on his traces, carried him back thither, and said to him, This is my city. Abdullah of the land looked and saw cities small by comparison with those he had seen. Then he entered with his comrade of the deep, and they fared on till they came to a cave. Quoth the merman, This is my house, and all the houses in the city are like this, caverns great and small in the mountains, as are also those of every city of the sea. For whoso is minded to make him a house must repair to the king, and say to him, I wish to make a house in such and such a place. Whereupon the king sends with him a band of the fish called peckers, which have beaks that crumble the hardest rock, appointing for their wage a certain quantum of fish. They betake themselves to the mountain chosen by the intended owner, and there pierce the house, whilst the owner catcheth fish for them and feedeth them, till the cave is finished, when they wend their ways, and the house owner taketh up his abode therein. On such wise do all the people of the sea. They traffic not one with the other, nor serve each other, save by means of fish, and their food is fish, and they themselves are a kind of fish. Then he said to him, Enter. So Abdullah entered with the mermaid, and cried out, saying, Ho, daughter mine! When behold, there came to him a damsel with a face like the rondure of the moon, and hair, long hips, heavy eyes, black-edged and waist slender. But she was naked, and had a tail. When she saw Abdullah of the land, she said to her sire, O father, what is this no-tail thou hast brought with thee? He replied, O my daughter, this is my friend of the land, from whom I used to bring thee the fruits of the ground. Come hither, and salute him with salam. So she went forward, and saluted the fisherman with loquent tongue and eloquent speech. And her father said to her, Bring meat for our guest, by whose visit a blessing hath betided us. Whereupon she brought him 2 great fishes, such the bigness of a lamb, and the merman said, Eat. So he ate for stress of hunger, despite himself, because he was tired of eating fish, and they had naught else save fish. But long in came the merman's wife, who was beautiful of form and favour, and with her 2 children, each having in his hand a young fish, which he crunched as a man would crunch a cucumber. When she saw the fisherman with her husband, she said, What is this no-tail? And she and her sons and their sisters came up to him, and fell to examining the back parts of Abdullah of the land, saying, Yea, by Allah, he is tailless. And they laughed at him. So he said to the merman, O my brother, hast thou brought me hither to make me a butt and a laughing stock for thy children and thy consort? And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 946th night, she resumed, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Abdullah of the land said to Abdullah of the sea, O my brother, hast thou brought me hither to make me a butt and laughing stock for thy children and thy consort? Cried the merman, Pardon me, O my brother. Those who have no tails are rare among us, and whenever one such is found, the Sultan taketh him to make fun of him, and he abideth a marvel amongst us, and all who see him laugh at him. But, O my brother, excuse these young children and this woman, for they lack wits. Then he cried out to his family, saying, Silence. So they are afraid, and they held their peace, whilst he went on to soothe Abdullah's mind. Presently, as they were talking, behold, in came some 10 mermen, tall and strong and stout, and said to him, O Abdullah, it hath reached the king that thou hast with thee a no-tail of the no-tails of the earth. Answered the merman, Yes, and this is he. But he is not of us, nor of the children of the sea. He is my friend of the land, and hath come to me as a guest, and I propose to carry him back to the land. Quoth he, We cannot depart but with him. So what thou ought to say, arise and come with us before the king, and whatso thou wouldest say to him, say that same to the king. Then quoth the merman to the fisherman, O my brother, my excuse is manifest, and we may not disobey the king. But go thou with him to him, and I will do my best to deliver thee from him, inshallah. Fear not, for he deemeth thee of the children of the sea, but when he seeth thee, he will know thee to be of the children of the land, and he will surely entreat thee honourably, and restore thee to the land. And Abdullah of the land replied, 'Tis thine to decide. I will trust in Allah, and wend with thee. So he took him and carried him to the king, who, when he saw him, laughed at him, and said, Welcome to the no-tail. And all who were about the king began to laugh at him, and said, Yea, by Allah, he is tailless. Then Abdullah of the sea came forward, and acquainted the king with the fisherman's case, saying, This man is of the children of the land, and he is my comrade, and cannot live amongst us, for that he loveth not the eating of fish, except it be fried or boiled. Wherefore I desire that thou give me leave to restore him to the land. Whereto the king replied, Since the case is so, and he cannot live among us, I give thee leave to restore him to his place, after due entertainment, presently adding, bring him the guest meal. So they brought him fish of various kinds and colours, and he ate in obedience to the royal behest. After which the king said to him, Ask a boon of me. Quoth he, I ask of thee that thou give me jewels. And the king said, Carry him to the jewel house, and let him choose that whereof he hath need. So his friend carried him to the jewel house, and he picked out whatso he would, after which the merman brought him back to his own city, and pulling out a purse said to him, Take this, deposit it, and lay it on the tomb of the prophet, whom Allah save and sustain. And he took it, knowing not what was therein. Then the merman went forth with him to bring him back to the land, and by the way he heard singing and merrymaking, and saw a table spread with fish, and folk eating and singing and holding mighty high festival. So Abdullah of the land said to his friend, What aileth these people to rejoice thus? Is there a wedding among them? Replied Abdullah of the sea, Nay, one of them is dead. Asked the fisherman, Then do ye, when one dieth amongst you, rejoice for him, and sing and feast? And the merman answered, Yes. And ye of the land, what do ye do? Quoth Abdullah of the land, When one dieth amongst us, we weep and keen for him, and the women beat their faces and rend the bosoms of their raiment in token and mourning of the dead. But Abdullah the merman stared at him with wide eyes, and said to him, Give me the deposit. So he gave it to him. Then he set him ashore, and said to him, I have broken off our companionship and our amity, wherefore from this day forward thou shalt no more see me, nor I see thee. Cried the fisherman, Why sayest thou this? And the other said, Are ye not, O folk of the land, a deposit of Allah? Yes. Why then, asked the merman, is it grievous to you that Allah should take back his deposit, and wherefore weep ye over it? How can I entrust thee with a deposit for the prophet, whom Allah save and sustain, seeing that when a child is born to you, ye rejoice in it, albeit the Almighty setteth the soul therein as a deposit? And yet when he taketh it away, it is grievous to you, and ye weep and ye mourn. So it is hard for thee to give up the deposit of Allah. How shall it be easy to thee to give up the deposit of the prophet? Wherefore we need not your companionship. Saying thus, he left him, and disappeared in the sea. Thereupon Abdullah of the land donned his dress, and taking the jewels went up to the king, who met him lovingly, and rejoiced at his return, saying, How dost thou, O my son-in-law, and what is the cause of thine absence from me this while? So he told him his tale, and acquainted him with that which he had seen of the marvels of the sea, whereat the king wondered. Then he told him what Abdullah the merman had said, and the king replied, Indeed, 'twas thou wast at fault to tell him this. Nevertheless, he continued for some time to go down to the sea, and call Abdullah of the sea. But he answered him not, nor came to him. So at last he gave up all hope, and abode he and the king, his father-in-law, and the families of them, and both happiest of the case, and the practice of righteous ways, till there came to them the destroyer of delights, and the severer of societies, and they died all. Wherefore glory be to the living, who dieth not, who is in the empire of the seen and the unseen, who over all things is omnipotent, and is gracious to his servants, and knoweth their every intent. And amongst the tales they tell is one anent, of the tale of Harun al-Rashid and Abu Hassan, the merchant of Oman. The Caliph, Harun al-Rashid, was one night wakeful exceedingly. So he called Masrur and said to him as soon as he came, Fetch me Jafar in haste. Accordingly, he went out and returned with the wazir, to whom said the Caliph, O Jafar, wakefulness hath mastered me this night, and forbiddeth me sleep from me, nor what shall drive it away from me. Replied Jafar, O Commander of the Faithful, the wise say, looking on a mirror, entering the hammam bath, and hearkening unto song, banish care and chagrin. He rejoined, O Jafar, I have done all this, but it hath brought me naught of relief, and I swear by my pious forbearance, unless thou contrive that which shall abate me from this infamy, I will smite thy neck. Quoth Jafar, O Commander of the Faithful, wilt thou do that which I counsel thee? Whereupon quoth the Caliph, And what is it thou counselleth? He replied, It is that thou take boat with us, and drop down Tigris River with the tide to a place called Con al Surat. So haply we may hear what never heard, or see what we never saw. For 'tis said, the solace of care is on one of three things: that a man see what he never before saw, or hear what he never yet heard, or tread on earth he erst hath never trodden. It may be this shall be the means of remedying thy restlessness, O Commander of the Faithful, Inshallah. There on other sides of the river are windows and balconies, one facing other, and it may be we shall hear or see from one of these somewhat wherewith our hearts may be hardened. Jafar's counsel pleased the Caliph, so he rose from his place, and taking with him the Wazir, and his brother Al-Fazil, and Isaac, the boon companion, and Abu Nawas, and Abu Dalaf, and Masur the sorter. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of this tale, till it be morrow.